Not everything is black or white. This is why we choose to challenge facts and opinions by going straight to the gray area. This is the Great People Podcast.
Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back to the Great People Podcast. I'm here with Sean.
Yo.
Yeah. Raina.
Hi.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about... Well, I'll let Raina explain. Tell people what we're talking
Thanks
about.
for the segue.
Yeah.
So, we're a little late on the topic of Bridgerton. I don't know who's a fan out there, but I'm 100% dedicated to watching the next season and the season after that, whenever that comes out.
Diehard.
Yes, I love the show. So today we wanted to talk about the Regency era, things that we saw on the show, and how, I guess, society and etiquette was back in the day compared to what it is now, and how things would work if any of that was implemented nowadays.
Yeah, I was reading through some of it, and obviously some of the stuff we've seen on the show and stuff, and it definitely, I don't think it will work into
No,
in
not at
2021.
I
Or
think
even-
it would.
You think?
What part?
Yeah,
Lots of parts.
lots of parts. All right, well, let's break it down. Let's talk about it. Where should we start? Let's start with the romantic type of like relationships, right?
Okay.
We
All
saw
right, let's start there.
we saw in Bridgerton they had like, I guess the whole thing was about courting the girls, right? Like putting them out into like almost like this show of like marry me versus her,
And
and if
date.
you have money, like pick me kind of thing, right? And I think that still happens today to some extent, right? But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Like that's different for sure. Like, would you want your like if you had a daughter and she comes of age, would you want to have to go through all that to be like, okay, you gotta be a perfect lady because we need you to get married?
Let me set you up with this person or this person because they come from money or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't. Raina can answer that one.
That would
first.
just be weird, I feel like, nowadays. Just because it's like, you as a woman should have a choice as to who you would want to be with, regardless if that person has, like, I don't know, like, it's higher in society than you or whatever the case may be. But yeah, you should have a choice. And
Well,
that
'cause
choice
in
shouldn't
the-
be
in
up to
the-
your family.
Well, yeah, in the show it looked like, and I'm sure it was fairly accurate for the time, but it looked like if a man proposed, you were done. Like that was the proposal you had to accept to an extent. I don't know what the rules were or whatever, but it just looked like, oh, we don't want him to propose, because if he does, then well, you got to do the right thing and marry him, kind of thing,
Yeah, what did we call like like an honor system? Yeah, but at the same time, like just not a
Well,
promise, but you have to keep your word.
Unfortunately, this is a man's world, so
It's always been right.
yeah.
Ew.
So we can all agree that rule couldn't work today
Definitely not. Well,
in America.
in
Yeah,
America,
I was gonna say that because I'm sure
Or
other
in these
places with arranged
weird-
marriages is similar.
Well,
you know,
like these weird like fraternities or whatever, like these weird multi-million or billion-dollar, people that have that kind of money in those industries. Maybe they have those setup things.
You know
where
what's
they're,
funny?
Like,
I was thinking
in
the
those
same.
backdoor shit.
I think like if you're a family with money, I think
gonna
you're
get
around.
with some.
You're around the certain
I've known
family
a
with
couple
money,
like that,
and I
Or-
think and
like
I
real
think,
money, like real like generational wealth money. I've known a couple people, and they literally marry into another family that
just to make more
does
money.
just as good or around that ballpark. They ain't getting with me, but they getting around with these other people.
Well, I guess the difference is that they could, right? Like if they
Probably 'cause I'm
wanted
Puerto
to,
Rican. I don't know.
like if they wanted to, they could. But back then, it was like you could not be seen with anybody below like that level. Like right, like it felt like if you have money, if you were a lady, you were supposed to be seen with gentlemen and whatever. Like if you were out there doing the most, you were automatically almost like X'd. Like, it was like, you know what? No, like we
Well, you
don't know.
couldn't be out like a lady couldn't be out in society without like a chaperone, pretty much.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
even if they were seen with a
And-
certain type of company, like I'm
Yeah.
sure that was like, yo, like you saw who she was hanging out with, she's done.
Real
kinda
quick
thing.
though, real quick. Have you guys seen Spartacus? That show that was on
No,
Netflix a little
I
while
haven't.
ago.
No.
All right. Anyway, this is back like Roman times, the Colosseum and gladiators and shit like that.
Mhm.
And these noble women, right? They have these noble men, and the noble men, they always showing like these guys always cheating or fucking around. But the woman would sneak like those gladiators, which were slaves. They sneak them in, have them bang the shit out of them, and then they just send them back to their cages or whatever. So, do you think that was going on around that time too?
With
I-
men?
Like this Bridgerton area where these women were like well, I'm gonna get with this broke motherfucker, but I know he's gonna lay some pipe.
Well, I think it probably happened in the extent of
'Cause I
like,
think that happens now.
well, I think
They kind of showed like a scene in the show where there were like the married women that probably had like open relationships, because a lot of ladies back in the day would just get married just to be able to do more in society, not because they were marrying for love. So behind closed doors, they were like doing, other people that weren't
I don't
their
remember
husbands
that
and stuff.
episode.
Yeah, it happened. A lot of people would just get married just to have that title, because if you're single and stuff, you're not supposed to be doing so many
well, like,
things.
and,
So
and
then you
there,
have
yeah,
the liberty of doing other things.
there were things like I was reading. There were like rules and stuff. Like if you were a woman, you should not have been doing any kind of business. If you had any kind of man in your life, your husband, your brothers, your father,
Yeah, the
like
woman
if
was
there
solely
was,
dependent on the man.
unless you were like a single woman with no men in your life, like there were certain things you just couldn't do. You couldn't like negotiate. You couldn't go buy things or whatever the case was, because there was a man that could have done it for you. So I could see how like getting married maybe allowed you to do certain things. Like I'm sure there were a list of things that women couldn't do unless you were married
Yeah.
and unless you know you
Yeah,
had
some
that
sort of
approval.
status.
Unless you were married. Well, I guess, and then if something happened and you were widowed or divorced, like those were, I guess, the best case scenarios for women back in the day, because then that gave them the freedom to do anything they wanted,
Yeah.
because it wouldn't be frowned upon. You're not a lady anymore because you already had sex, obviously, since you're married. Because the only purpose that people got married back in the day was to reproduce and have their heir to continue their name.
I thought it was to have a family to help you with the farm.
And I think that was part of it, right? I'm pretty sure that was that
I
was part of it.
guess some people.
No, but talking about like you mentioned like after women were married or widowed or whatever, it was understood that they're a lady, they've had sex, all these things. But I found it interesting in the show, like the angle, like with the girls and sex, like they didn't know how
Yeah, they wasn't educated at all.
it was supposed
all.
like, and I'm pretty sure that happened to an extent. I'm sure there was
Yeah.
like you could
Well,
pretty
you
much
weren't supposed to talk about those things.
yeah, like I'm pretty sure like there was no internet or nothing for anybody to really find out. So like if your parents and those that knew didn't tell you like, okay, so this is how sex happens.
I want to say that that's accurate, but it's kind of hard for me to say that's accurate. Because, like, wouldn't your mother just tell you, hey, this is how you bear children?
Well,
But based on like the research and even like the show itself, like you're not supposed to talk about vulgar things. And how else would you explain? Oh, and the birds and the bees. Like I'm sure maybe that conversation was happening, but then the girl didn't have an actual like.
Did they ever see
knowledge.
livestock though? Like, oh, I wonder what those pigs or horses or whatever are doing.
Maybe.
I'm just saying.
But I'm sure they just never expected to know what the other reproductive system looked like to keep it.
Oh, they know what it
Clean.
looked like. They saw the
where
hardware.
it went.
They knew where the hardware was going. It's a natural instinct for a guy and a girl to know where that shit goes.
Well, here's the thing. I think when you pair them up, I think to an extent, I think once you're there in the moment, you're like, okay, well, let's get on working with this. I think you figure it out.
Biologically, it works. Now, I'm not talking about love and all that shit, but biologically, this is wrong. We should not be doing this if you're not supposed to be doing it.
But think of like the times, right? Like I think like let's bring it to like our age,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Growing up, like even when you were 8 or 9, like you heard and okay, this and that, and you kind of heard the stories, or I heard that they found them doing like this or whatever, right? Like you heard the stories and you saw the pictures,
I didn't live
the
a life
magazines
like you.
or whatever. What I'm saying is there was
Unfortunately,
it was more available, I think, to us. Like I think
definitely.
Oh,
if you think of a child born, right?
Unless you were helping out at the little cathedrals back in the day, it was you knew what was going on.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, to like in our age, there was definitely a lot more education. Even in school, there was like sex ed for a lot of like in DR we had sex ed, and I'm sure in a lot of places they did. So like that was just a matter of what you learn. You learn about like men and women, and they reproduce, and 9 months later you have a baby and all these things.
Yeah.
But picture back in the day where they had way less knowledge of the human body as it was. Like doctor, medicines, all these things weren't as advanced as it was in our age. So if the doctors knew little, I can imagine the regular husband and wife probably knew less. And then if they decided to not share any of that with their kids, if they decided like we're not talking about this ever, then I could see how these kids
But even
grow
that,
up.
I feel like they probably just also, I mean, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I'm just gonna assume that they only believed, obviously, that people would have sex to, reproduce, not as enjoyment
Well,
or pleasure, because they
then
obviously
then
wanted
why
to
were
grow
there
their families.
brothels?
Well, those people
Well,
obviously,
but at
and
that
that's why
point,
they were
Were they
frowned
were they the
upon, because they
open-minded
weren't
people though?
ladies. They weren't ladies.
Oh, okay.
well, but at that point, you already
No,
kind
but the
of
guys
experienced.
though. What about the guys? How were the guys looked
Oh,
at?
but they were called rakes, pretty much man whores, so they were
Well,
also kind of
well, but look at it like this, right? I
frowned
think,
upon too.
like, I almost picture it like this. Like, let's say you're, I don't know, 12, 13-year-old boy, right?
And you're a man at that time.
Yeah, sure. You probably like experience some of the feelings like yourself, maybe like touching yourself or whatever, right? But you don't know, like beyond that, right? Like that's all you would know. Maybe you can imagine what it will be to be with the girl, whatever. But in my head, I picture like, how would you know anything else? Now you get married or whatever, or you get with the girl and have sex. Now you've experienced that feeling, and you're like, yo, that feels like way better than what I was doing in my bedroom, right? And I think then at
Or
that point,
barn.
yeah,
What?
or barn. But like once you
I'm just talking about back in the day. I'm assuming I'm a broke motherfucker. I'm a
No.
broke motherfucker here. I'm gonna be a broke motherfucker there. I'm somewhere on a farm.
In the barn.
no, but
Like-
what I mean is like you've experienced it, so yeah. Then brothels and all these things have a certain appeal for you because now you've experienced that, and you're like, yeah, I'll
But
pay for that shit.
what I'm saying is, what made that acceptable back then? If it was so frowned upon, why was there so much access to it?
Well, I think it's the same thing, right? It's always been frowned upon.
I think it was
at
frowned
the
upon
lower le-
on the women's side, not even. I'm
Exactly.
sure the men were like, yeah,
No, and that's the thing. Like
they were cool because they were going to the brothels, but obviously,
yeah, from the beginning of times, it's always been women can't swear. Women can't do this. They can't do business. Women should never be seen doing anything indecent.
and the women that they like the debutantes, I guess, like the women that entered society at whatever age it was it like 20, 21, I think?
Some-
I'm not sure.
that's what they said in the show, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it was earlier.
Yeah,
Because
I
back
think it
then,
was earlier.
people were marrying like 13-year-old women.
Like those girls, ladies, women, whatever, they belong to rich families, to families that everybody knew, versus the women that were in the brothels, they obviously didn't belong to like any of these like well-known families.
Prestigious,
Yeah,
yeah.
prestigious families. So that's where
They were in the
They
working
ended up-
class.
exactly. So they ended up in those situations.
No, and I could see that. You know what I mean? Like you have money, and again, almost just like the same thing
Whoa,
today.
don't be throwing my business out there.
No, I'm
You got
saying
that
like
stimmy.
no, like back in the day, like if you have money, honestly, legit, like it is today, you could do way more than everybody else.
Hey guys, Dre Rocket here, and I want to invite you to my website, allrock.com. That's ALLRAWK.com. We have tons of podcasts on there, YouTube videos, and so much more. We'd love if you came over and checked us out. Again, that's allrock.com. Now back to the show.
If you have money, it was allowed for you to do this, and it was okay because well, he's got money, right? But where like if you were poor and maybe you were seen trying to like holla at these women or whatever, then it was like ew, right? Like get away.
Broke
This
bitch.
creep, yeah, what a creep, right? But if you have money, it was like, oh Lord, whatever, right? Like yes, please come,
Lord
join us.
Farquaad,
Farquaad.
or whatever his name is.
No, but I can see that, and I don't know. I just picture like the difference, kind of like Reina was saying. With for women, it was completely unacceptable to be vulgar, to be indecent, to even like
Well, that's unacceptable now.
no, sure,
I
but
mean,
But, I mean,
nowadays
look at
the
Cardi
world
B.
is more
I'm
sex
just kidding.
positive.
No. I'm definitely for the woman movement. Whatever you want to do, all that shit.
wop
Just
wop
kidding.
wop all you want, right?
Yeah, yeah. Carry a gun.
Just
shoot,
do everything
whatever,
safely,
like-
guys. Anyways, but yeah, nowadays everything is more sex positive. But back in the day,
Well, let's. I'm gonna ask this question just to kind of get a feeling of the room. Like, is that a good thing? Like, is that picturing? I don't know, an era where you had to be a certain way, and there was a certain like almost finesse to the whole thing, right? Like with your parents, I was reading like when you woke up in the morning, you'll give them a little bow, a little curt, like you just almost like it
A
felt like
curt?
yeah, like a
Curtsy?
curtsy. Sorry, you will give them a little bow, a little curtsy, and a little something. It just felt like I don't know. I felt like that has a certain flair to it, like almost like that royal thing.
Respect.
Yeah, and women had to conduct themselves a certain way, and men too. Like if you were a gentleman, you couldn't just be doing shit like ratchet shit. You know what I mean? Like you had to be a gentleman the whole time.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like there's a certain glory to that. I feel like, and I don't know. I feel like a lot of that is lost today. Like, you see whatever the case might be, like some dude just because he's got money, he can act however the fuck he wants, disrespectful. Just do, you know what I mean? Like the fact that a lot of those quote unquote rules of the time have been lost, right? Women are allowed to swear up a storm if they want to. Women are
Mm.
allowed to do whatever, like
I
shake
don't
their
think
ass
it's
on
been
TV
lost. I think it's
24/7.
just evolved. Cause imagine someone just being so naive as like the girl, obviously like in the show, and not knowing anything. Like you're literally about to go to your wedding night,
And you only
not
scooting the chair on
knowing,
a motherfucker. All the guys out there,
not knowing
if you
what's
about to
about to
get it
happen.
in and you've already had it before, and a girl sits on you and scooted in the damn chair, you know you're gonna be upset.
I feel like education is power. So to me, it's like I appreciate how times have changed and how we have just more access to just anything pretty much. I mean, we can literally Google something that we're so confused about and find out what it's about versus obviously just staying in the
But
dark.
see, now the thing is, and again, I'm just playing devil advocate here, and pointing, I guess, to where I think it gets a little in the gray area. What is too much? You know what I mean? Like we saw
That
the
I
Grammys.
agree. That I
We saw the
agree.
Grammys, and they got a ton of criticism because the main event and what got so much celebrated and stuff was Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion pretty much had like dry humping on a big like bed. Or well, they weren't that close, but you get what I mean. Like
Yeah.
the whole twerking thing, the whole
Well,
like
and that was a
dancing.
bad performance, unfortunately, by Cardi B because I love the woman, but
No,
she got too much body work and she
and
was too
definitely
stiff.
and definitely.
So I'm sure if she danced better, it would have been
And
better.
there's the aspect of like, okay, women empowerment, I get that, but then this is on TV, and for what it's worth or whatever the case, like, yeah, great, we all appreciate it, and I like a show just like anybody else, but what if you got your 7-year-old that was watching the Grammys with you at 7 8 p.m. and this is what they gotta
Then it's
watch?
bedtime. Go to sleep.
Well,
Well,
whatever it is, but
yeah, but now we're jumping into something else, which is that freedom of speech type of thing.
no, sure, but here's the thing: like, there's always that side of everything, right? You have like when J Lo and what's the Shakira that performed at
Yeah,
the
Super
Super Bowl,
Bowl.
everybody
Yeah.
was losing their shit, and I think for a reason. You know what I mean? I think some people don't want to have their like kids be exposed to that yet, right? Because you can definitely
What
educate
were
them
they
when you
doing
want to.
wrong?
No, not that they
Well,
were
they
doing
were
anything
shaking their ass on
wrong.
that one too,
Yeah,
and they were doing their thing.
yeah, not that they were doing anything wrong, but I'm just
Mm.
saying.
But it would be okay for a man to sing about, whatever he wants to sing
Well,
about, though.
and again, that's what I'm saying. Today, that is the case from both sides. I'm not just saying women or men. I'm just saying today we've kind of, I don't want to say lost the decency, but we've kind of just fuck it. If you want to talk about dicks and pussy every day and all day, that's fine. In the 1700s and whatever, you would have never heard a song be like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like it just there was
I don't really think you heard songs back then.
no, there was music.
I know, I'm just
Music
kidding.
was
goes way
I'm
not
just
beyond that.
kidding. I'm
invented.
just
No,
kidding.
but what I mean is that like is it too much? Like where is it too much? Where's that line that we can
All
maybe
right, if I'm
point
gonna
at?
be completely honest, I believe there is too much. Like, I wouldn't want my kid to be seeing that stuff at a young age. I like my kid to grow and learn what they want. I'm not saying the industry is pushing kids,
But
but I
sex
believe
sells.
it does
Yeah.
sell. And obviously, when your brain's turning already, that's why I believe maybe these weirdos are gonna pop up a lot quicker, right? Or these maybe these children turn into rapists a little quicker because they want to get it and they're gonna take it, type of thing. So I can believe all that stuff could happen, and I want my kid to be in a world where you mature on your own in a way. You find out what you want. You don't have to get influenced.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't get me wrong. There could be some censorship, but at the same time too, what are you doing watching it around your kids?
Yeah,
Or what are
that's
you doing
my
even watching it?
thought
I mean, are
process.
you going to be that hypocritical? Because these people that's on the stage, they started somewhere too, and they started at a young age.
Yeah.
And you're watching it, and you're watching them grow.
But here's the problem with
Wait, let me just add on. At the end of the day, I feel like, I mean, I'm not a parent, but I'm just gonna assume, obviously, just speaking as a hopefully future parent someday, that you can only
Randy.
control what's in your household. I mean, whatever you do at that moment, whether it be watching the Grammys and someone's twerking or whatever, I mean, you have the control at that moment to put your kid to sleep. Have a conversation if you feel like it should be had at that moment, but then outside, like I mean, you can't
to
control what the kid
to
sees
to an
or
extent. And that's the
is
thing.
exposed to and things like that at
Today,
school with their friends and things.
today, and it's always been a thing, right? As kids, like we did plenty of shit we weren't supposed to do, but
Oh
today,
yeah.
to an extent, it's almost impossible. You could have a kid with everything and the way that just the internet works today. You could have a kid online, and they hear somebody say, let's say Taylor Swift, who's obviously clean in terms of like lyrics or whatnot, they could be
Taylor
like, hey,
Swift.
well, yeah, Taylor Swift doesn't go and like talk about like fuck me and or whatnot, right? Like
I'm saying
I'm
that.
just saying, whatever it is, like her lyrics, if you
As
were
long
to
as she's not
compare,
saying "fuck me in the ass," I guess it's okay.
whatever. I guess what I'm saying is, in terms of lyrics, like
Okay, yeah, it's softer. It's a
like
softer.
sure,
note.
like if you're gonna have someone listen to
I don't
Taylor
listen
Swift,
to her, I don't know.
I'm sure most of Taylor Swift songs don't have the E next to it on Apple Music or Spotify. That's what I mean.
Mhm.
So in general, someone, let's say that they're watching an interview because they like Taylor Swift and she's like, yeah, I'm really excited. I won a third Grammy, right? Then the kid is like, a Grammy? What is that? They Google it. Award, boom, Grammys, highlights, whop. It's gonna come up. Like your kid is gonna come across it. You could be the best parent in the world, and unless you know a lot about content filtering and you're gonna block certain stuff in the back end of the
Yeah.
internet side of things, your kid is gonna see it,
I'm-
and it's acceptable. You know what I mean? It was on CBS. That shit wasn't on a Triple X theater or whatever. Like that shit was on CBS primetime television.
I agree with that. Like, and like I said, like, okay, cool. I don't want my kids crazy on it like that or seeing it and whatever else. But at the same time, hopefully, if I have a kid, hopefully it's okay for them to come to me and ask me my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm a parent enough to be and my child knows I'm open enough to have a conversation like that, so I can kind of steer them the right way. Because at the end of the day, like you said, we can't control this world. But the point you're pretty much bringing up is this world so much now? Is it so open
Is
now?
it past that line of like
And
quote unquote
I
business?
believe it is, but at the same time, I can get two shits because I'm like, do what you got to do to get where you want to go. Do what you got to do. I can give a shit as long as it's not killing me.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Whoa. Hold up. Would you guys just chill for a second? Let me get this commercial in. What's up, everybody? My name is Will Wonder, and I started a podcast at the end of 2020. On the Will Wonder Pod, I discuss sports, music, and a myriad of other timely topics with guests weekly, as well as in-depth interviews once a month with interesting people who are doing some pretty incredible things. So if that sounds good to you, check out the Will Wonder Pod wherever you get your podcasts. Now back to Randy, Raina, and Sean.
The thing is, or the crazy thing is in generations, from generation to generation, I think we look at it as deteriorating, right? And the current generation looks at it as, oh, this is good. This is where we're supposed to be, right? Like my
Free.
parents, yeah, exactly. Like my parents looked at my music, like, yo, like, what are you listening to? That is so nasty. Stop, like, turn that off, right? And their parents were probably thinking the same of them. And when you really, really think about it, I think that the interesting thing is, as people, as humans, we all do it to an extent. Like when I listen to my parents' music, yeah, maybe they weren't like flat out saying like I want to fuck you, but they were using all these metaphors.
That wasn't
and
their
all,
language, though,
exactly.
either.
But they were using all these metaphors and all these things
Exactly,
of like,
because that was more their language.
yeah, late at night when I get to see you and caress you and have love, and and it was like, oh shit, he's talking about fucking her.
Restraining order.
No, like he flat out he didn't say I want to fuck you, but he said everything else. You know what I mean? Like, and they kind of danced
I
around
see
it in
her
circles.
face everywhere I go. Yeah, he sounds like a stalker to me.
Yeah, no, but I think that's the thing, and I think through even from the beginning of times, I think it kind of was like that. Even if we look at the times around Bridgerton, right? I think there was a certain like, oh, in my time we would have never dared to do that, and then there was a new generation like starting to swear or whatever, right? And they were like, oh my god, like don't do that, that's not ladylike. And then the next generation just kept taking it to more of a freedom kind of place, right? Like we're now we are free to say whatever we want as artists. People can make music however they want it and record it and have it say.
Men could always do whatever they want.
Sure, but even
Men
today,
could always do whatever they want.
Let's
That's
be
true.
real. What I appreciate about the show is just how it does show, like back in the day, how I mean, you were just as good as whoever you married, I guess, and that's kind of like unfortunate. Like as a woman, like you're so much more than whoever you end up marrying or whatever the case may be.
That's
So I'm
what-
just saying, like now, like we can do so much more.
And that's why
We
with
have
the
so much
show,
knowledge.
I really, I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't love the show. I wasn't like, oh damn, it's a great show,
No, stop lying.
or whatever. But what I did love about it though is in the show there was a queen that ruled the shit. Like she
Oh, yeah,
was
she
running
was
shit,
cool.
and she was black. So it's like,
Mhm.
oh shit, they really shaking shit up. I was like, a lot of white people gonna be upset,
I felt like
which I didn't mind. But I was like, the white people that were upset, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
But I was like, yo, they got a black duke or whatever. They
Mhm.
got, his friends were kind of black. It was cool. I was like, yo,
No,
to see
it's
that mix,
diverse.
which is cool. But I was like, damn, like they got these people in these power rankings in the show, but they're black or
Yeah,
Spanish
you know
or
what?
whatever.
It's funny because I thought the same. I thought obviously it was cool they did all that and they kept it diverse, and it's what it would look like today, right? But
Yeah,
for me, I automatically thought of like Hamilton. I'm like, you took a page off that book. Like like that was one of the biggest thing Lin Manuel Miranda wanted to do was have all these people in the show
Yeah.
look like they would look today, right? If Lafayette was there and Washington was there, what would these people look like?
yeah,
And they wouldn't all be white, obviously. To like back in the day, like you would have never had a black general that signed the whatever the Proclamation of Independence and whatnot. But today, right? If this happened today and there was a revolution, yeah, there would be a
well, to a
there'll be a
point
Puerto
though,
Rican
if there
one, a
wasn't a
Dominican-
printing press, then yeah, they would have a black person learn how to write it and then write hundreds and hundreds
sure,
of pages.
but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, if that happened today, it would look very diverse. There would be a Dominican dude in there, a Puerto Rican, a Chinese dude, and they would all be in the middle of like, yo, let's do this, because that's what you will see. It's a melting pot at the end of the day.
Mhm.
But, anyways, I thought that was cool in the show. One thing I thought was kind of interesting, like in the Bridgerton like times, was like the business. Like it was kind of cool to see like you have like what did they call him, the Viscount, or yeah, the Viscount, right?
Her brother.
Yeah, her brother. But he was like supposed to be like in charge of the company finances and like
Oh
sorry,
yeah, because
the
he took the
families.
role of his father who passed away.
Yeah. But I thought it was just kind of interesting to see like, yo, like, there's like that wouldn't happen today. Like if my let's say, you have the mom and the dad passes away, it wouldn't be like the son that's all of a sudden in charge of the finances. Like that
Well, it
would
wasn't
never
just the finances. He was pretty much in charge of just making family decisions. Like that's why
Exactly.
he was
Yeah,
trying
no.
to find the suitor for his sister and things like that. Imagine today if Javier
well
had to take care of everything for you,
not
Renny.
even just Javier, just in general. Like imagine like there's your mother who's
My family's fucked.
but imagine
And
like,
that's a good example too, because obviously the mom is still alive, and at that moment, at that time, it didn't mean shit. Like he, as the son, because he was a man, had to be the head of the household.
yeah, and I find that to
Raina,
be
do
crazy.
you have things against men?
I
I'm
have
just
a
kidding.
lot of things
I'm
against
just
men.
kidding.
Just kidding.
But anyways, I think it's interesting, like just to see it. Like imagine that today, like some 17-year-old kid is taking like care of like let's
I
pretend
mean,
that
he was in
isn't-
his 20s, but
no, but let's pretend, right? Because it wouldn't have mattered if he was 17. He would have been the man of the house if the
Yeah,
if the
I
dad
guess
passed
that's
away.
He was 15.
Yeah, but I would like I'm saying like imagine if like let's say a millionaire family, the mom is still around, but there's a 17-year-old saying like, "Yo, I'm gonna sell the house. I think is the best move."
Because I want to get the fuck out.
So I don't know. I just found it kind of cool and kind of interesting, but it definitely would look
I
way
also
different today.
wanted to touch upon like just the fact that if back in the day, like if someone, I guess a woman in the family did something very shameful, as if to just walk out with a man, not even do anything, just you were caught
They saw her by the gardens
talking to another man, then you're pretty much canceled. And that would, and by
The-
you being canceled, it
OG
would
cancel
cancel any
culture.
other female in your freaking family. Like that is ridiculous.
that was
If
the
my
OG.
fate depended on the horror of a sister or something, I'm just like, damn, I have no future because you were caught doing something.
Like it's crazy.
That
how-
was that's intense. That really
But it
is.
happened.
Like everyone had to be so on point.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a girl, you had to be so on
That
point
must
with
be so
everything.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, like now with just how important just talking about mental health and things like that, I just cannot imagine like having all that responsibility of having to be pristine at all times. And if
Well,
somebody
do you
even
think-
assumed that you were doing something wrong,
Do
it's
you
like
think they even had like anxiety back? Did they
I
have
mean,
time
they
to
had
have
something.
Did they have time to have anxiety back then?
they didn't know
Like,
what it was called. I'm assuming
they were just like,
but-
I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm losing it. I'm like, you're supposed to be losing.
You're
it,
supposed to be
dear."
a strong woman for this family, but not have any
They're like-
input.
Then she comes up, she's like, I'm
For
losing
real.
it, Mom. You're supposed to be losing it, dear. I'm like, what? Like, no.
It's normal.
No, but
And
it
I'm
is-
supposed to teach you about sex?
Yeah. He's like, you can't even you can't even act right and you want to know about sex?
You want to know what goes on down there? You're
It's
probably
so
gonna run off with
crazy.
the boy next door and fuck this shit up for the family.
No.
See, that's probably why. Can't
There's
put
just so
any
many
ideas in.
expectations.
Can't put any ideas in your head, or else you might just mess it up for the family.
Well,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. Like, imagine that craziness of like, yo, like the reputation you gotta uphold, like that pressure, like Rena's saying. like as you gotta be like known as like a gentleman, or like a lady had a lot more pressure back in those days. But then like anything you did reflected on
Your
the family,
family.
the Felices. Like, did you
Mhm.
hear what the Felices have been up to? No,
I
Randy's
mean,
been
I
up
say
to.
that shit.
No,
I generalize all you guys.
yeah, I know, right? No, but I think that definitely would have been crazy. I think I don't know. I just find it so like crazy how like one like thing like the girl could have been seen with a dude, and
It was literally throwing a rock in a pond and
yeah,
just one little rock and then
Yeah. Well, even like in the show where like she purposely wasn't it that she purposely kissed him or something?
but she
Where
wasn't
because she wanted,
supposed to.
but she
I
wanted to get
guess.
out of the quote unquote engagement or whatever from the other guy, so she went
Oh
ahead and like
Well, hold
yeah.
on, because the way I remember the show is like there was like that fire there, right? But she wanted to kiss him, I think, out of the romance thing. It wasn't like I'm gonna do it here so people
Yeah,
can
cause
see me.
because the white guy was gonna ask her out or whatever,
mhm,
right?
the guy that
But she was already in love with the
The
Black Duke
Duke.
guy, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when she kind of made the move on
Well,
him.
no.
Well,
So
back and
I
forth
think what
though.
it was, if I remember, is that she used the situation afterwards. I think in the moment it was just she wanted to kiss him,
Oh yeah.
and then when things were like, "Oh, this
or
is
was
gonna
it
come
maybe
out,"
he kissed her? I don't know,
But real quick, didn't he not want to act upon it because he's like, I don't want no kids or whatever the hell
yeah.
that whole situation was?
yeah,
Because that's the thing, like she was gonna get ruined, because that's what they used to call it back in the day. Like you would get ruined, your whole family would get ruined because she was caught kissing him. Because obviously it didn't matter who
Yeah,
started
because
it;
then she
it
had
was
to
her
hurry up and
fault.
get married to him or
Yeah, so
whatever, right?
then he didn't want to marry her, which
Because he didn't want a
would
kid.
have literally canceled her and her entire family and society back then. But then he ended up.
See, when I was watching it, I didn't understand that part. Now I understand. Now
Hmm.
that you say it, but I was like, "What's the big fucking deal here?" Like,
he's like they were kissing.
no,
Get
and
over
I
it.
get it. Like, oh, you lost honor in that, but I was like, why is this whole family getting fucked up now?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's why. So now when you say it like that, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
I think it's just crazy, like to think that again, just that like all that laid on one person. Like you couldn't have done something crazy because your
Let me
family
tell you
was
something.
disowning
If my older sister is listening, which I'm sure she's not,
Shout out to
you
you.
would have fucked us hard. Like, we would have been nothing. We would have been slaves.
Sean is like, we would have fallen from the graces
We
of
would
the.
have never existed.
God, we would have definitely went overboard.
Yeah,
I
don't
mean,
know.
if Randy's family depended on him, shit.
They would be all right if they depended on me.
Yeah, they depend on Randy. That's cool, but
Oh, I guess
my older sister.
if the roles were reversed and whatever a guy did mattered.
I
Yeah.
don't think you
in the same
know.
way.
Like, I mean, if she did a kiss in secret,
Well, it was even just being seen. with the
Yeah,
man. Like
if-
you didn't even have to do anything.
That's what I'm
just being
saying.
seen.
If you didn't
That's what
have
I'm
a
sa-
chaperone and you were seen with some other dude that was not your intended, like your
'Cause that's how the
and I
rumor
saw that a
started.
lot with my sister.
That's how the rumor started, and then Lady, what was it? Lady Whistledown.
Yeah.
Se pasaba
yeah,
chismeando.
my older sister, I definitely saw her
No.
without a chaperone. Plenty.
No.
I think the chaperone. You know, I'll just stop.
But here's a crazy thing.
You're like, I saw her with the chaperone.
Another layer.
Unfortunately, the guy I thought I could trust.
Another layer that you just mentioned with the lady, what Whistletown, right?
I think it's
Whistledown.
Whistledown.
Whistledown,
Whistle
whatever her
something.
name was.
Whistleton.
It's crazy. Whistleton, like the town. Anyways, the crazy thing is like to see how like gossip also goes all the way back.
Oh yeah.
Like that interest to know who was up to
gossip's been
something.
around.
That was the only source of entertainment.
Yo, I think gossip's been around more than like actual like verbal communication. They'd be like some, but they'd be like signing and shit, like and pointing at that person, like she got like an
It's like-
itchy ass or something, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that bitch got an itchy ass." That's what that means.
She fell by the river. It was
Yeah.
like the big joke of the
Oh,
tribe.
yeah.
No, but it's crazy though to think like that one thing as
I think that would be exciting. Like if you had to wait for just a circulation to come out of what's happening
print.
in your friend circles or something, I think that would.
You
still
had
be
to
fun.
wait for the
Well,
paper.
Rena, you kind of about that life.
I would be whistled down shit.
Oh yeah, no, you definitely would,
I'm like,
and I would just be like,
Did you guys hear about the Merrills?
Yeah, no, but what I think is crazy, obviously, is when you look at the past and you look at today, and I think there's always those people that look back and think, yo, like we had it really good before, and the way we
Mhm.
have society today is lost.
yeah,
And I think then you have the group of people that are a little more progressive and think, you know what, like this is good. Like the way we have it now, like I would hate to be,
yeah,
you know,
kind of like this whole like "Make America Great Again." It's
Exactly.
like, hold on,
yeah, it comes from that, right?
like I'm sure it was okay for a lot of people.
Yeah, like it
But
started.
not most people.
It
I'm like
started with
white
like
men.
well, yeah, but it
But even
started.
then, I mean, was it great when we went through World War One,
Mm.
2?
No, but
You
I
know,
think people look at those old days and they romanticize it, right?
Yeah.
Like they look at like, oh, we had it really good in the South. Like my grandma, my grandfather used to tell stories of how beautiful everything was, and everybody got along except for all the horrible stuff that was going on. But anyways, I just think it's a little bit of that. I think the old generations, like I can see us doing that later on. Like when we have kids later on and we have grandkids or whatever, we're gonna be like, yo, in my days, when Bad Bunny used to say, "Si tu novio," like that was real class. I'm just kidding. We're not gonna say that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we already start to do that because let's just bring it to hip hop a little bit.
Yeah,
I believe the '90s era of hip hop is probably the greatest.
yeah,
They say hip hop now is like, oh wow, all these so many multi platinums and it's never been done by some of these artists, and I'm like, they couldn't hold water to some of this. So that's just me being an old head. Like music wasn't as how it was then already.
yeah. And I think that's always gonna happen. I think
Mhm.
you're gonna look at your kids and say, "Back in my day," and then they're gonna say, "Yo, I don't want to live in a world that was back in your day." You know?
Yeah, because maybe Tupac called you a fag, and it's
Oh
like
my
that's
God.
like oh hold up, that's not correct, and it's like
Yeah.
oh well that's not really what it meant, but then again kind of did, but
Yeah.
all right, I guess you're right. You shouldn't have said it, but
Yeah.
that was the culture.
Yeah, I
It
think
doesn't make
it's
it right, but that was the culture.
yeah, I think it's kind of cool to see though. At the very least, I'm really really happy for the historic side of it. Like just to be able to, especially now, go back and really learn much about what it was back in those days. Like it's really really cool. I picture like people back in the 1700s. They only had what was written down on text. They only had what was on the books as part of history.
I mean, you saw how they delivered that one letter to who was it? Marina, wasn't it her name that
Yeah.
she was waiting to hear from her baby daddy?
But
It's freaking months.
But what I mean is like today, I think we are having all these records. Like even just now, everything is fucking documented. Everything is on the internet. And I think it'd be cool one day to look back and really have that much more history to look back to and compare. And
But and don't get me wrong, I'm with that. Like it's a good thing, but it's like even going back to like our past, like our people, right? Like we don't have that though.
yeah,
So it's like we can only go back so far,
yeah, no, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, like it's cool to see
and we'll
how
never
much
have
we
it back
have.
because that shit's been melted down and destroyed.
It
It's
was
fucking
eradicated. It's
gone.
gone.
We don't exist, motherfucker.
We were wiped off.
We're not
but-
supposed to be here.
well, some of us.
Well, because someone had to carry the rocks and shit.
Can't with you guys.
Anyways,
We don't know how historically accurate this show is,
yeah,
but
Oh,
But it was nice
What I
to
just
get an
said
idea.
was
We're gonna-
definitely accurate.
we're
no, I'm
gonna-
talking about the show itself.
Oh,
I don't
we're gonna-
know,
We're gonna put the little disclosure. The Great People Podcast is not sure of how.
Yeah,
but I do.
I don't
think
have
it's a good-
MD and shit on the end of my name as a historian. Okay.
That is true.
I
But
think
anyways,
it's cool to see just how it could have been, I guess, back in the day to how we're progressing. As long as we keep moving forward to equality for everyone, I think
Raina,
we're on the right
real
path.
quick, how equal do you want it
I don't know,
as a woman?
but
That's
let's stop.
really-
As a woman,
and
how
like
equal-
side note, not to even be funny or anything, just to stop all hate at the moment. Stop Asian hate. I
think
hope
it's,
you guys agree.
I saw a
Oh.
thing that I honestly saw it, and I think it was plain. Like obviously, it always comes around, and it's sad to say that it always comes around when something bad happens. But let's just stop terrorism. Is what it really boils down to.
it's
Yeah.
terrorist.
It's like they want to like. I think they
And
beautify it.
the cop said he doesn't believe it was a terrorist attack
course he doesn't.
or racially.
He was having a bad
I was
day.
like, hold
His
on.
the dude's
here.
last name was not Mohammed, so clearly, automatically, not an active terrorist, not an act
I
of
say-
terrorism, right?
I'm sitting here like this white cop want to go on national television in this climate and say it wasn't racially pursued like that.
Anyways, definitely,
Motherfucker.
we gotta stop the hate. But I think it's kind of crazy. We definitely like, not we. I think America beautifies when there's a white person that does it, and all of a sudden he was
He's just
distressed.
not right
and
in the
he was
head.
just-
Yeah.
Yeah, let it be someone of color. Anyways, another topic for another time. Maybe we should get into that here at the Great People Podcast at some point. But
And let us know if you want. Let us know if you want us to really dive into something like that.
'cause we'll let you
Because that's
know.
a little more. You gotta be a little more politically correct, maybe. But if anyone hears me long enough, I don't give a damn. So if you guys want to hear me say some shit like that, go ahead. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Anyways, no, but definitely, I think it's crazy what's going on out there. definitely we got to do something to be better to each other, to get to a point where we are more
And if you don't feel
equal.
anything when you see these things on the news, you should probably just take some self-evaluation and analyze why that is, because it's crazy.
Yeah.
You should be advocating for people, helping people, promoting the things that are
Anyways.
happening.
But yeah, everybody, thanks for listening. We definitely appreciate you tuning into the Great People Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Again, if there's anything else you want to see us talk about, let us know. If there was something here we missed and you wanted to put in the comments and let us know, and we can talk about it
Maybe
later.
correct.
Yeah, or if we need to correct some stuff historically, let us know.
Who's
We
gonna
can,
say what was his name? The Duke's favorite line. We all want to hear it.
I burned for you. Was
You,
that,
you
was
gotta
that
say
not
it like him though.
I'm not gonna say it like him. Anyways,
How do you say? I burn for you.
No, it was more like passionate, guys.
That sounded like
I want
Scottish.
child.
Anyways, no, but again, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate you. Let us know what you want to see in the show. We definitely want to hear from you.
Okay.